Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Friday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. On today's show, we are ranking my favourite DCEU soundtrack scores. Now, I'm not going to be ranking every single DCEU's movie score, because at the end of the day, there's a few movies in the DCEU whose scores I don't even remember and mean absolutely nothing to me. So they're not going in my ranking. We're going to talk about scores that I remember, that I understand, that actually meant something to me. So if you're interested in seeing how I rank my favourite DCEU movie scores, keep it here, right now. But before we get into all of that, there is one update. If you go to collider.com, you will see that they have posted a logo for Joker Folie à Deux. This is an official logo for the movie. This is very, very exciting because it means soon we're going to get some kind of teaser trailer or full trailer for the movie. And of course, here on Movies TV Mad, we will do a reaction for that trailer, whatever it is, however long it is, and you will get my honest opinion on what we see. But I'm very excited for that movie. I think it's going to be freaking awesome. This could be a peak year for DC. We'll have to wait and see how that movie turns out. Now, back to my ranking of my favourite DCEU scores. Now, let's be absolutely clear. Just because I love a movie, it doesn't mean if I rank a score higher than a movie I've told you I loved, that I'm flip-flopping, that I'm basing my opinion on the score and the movie on the same level. No, this is a ranking of the score, not the movie. Let's be absolutely clear about that. So, at the bottom of my list, it's the most recent DCEU movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Rupert Gregson-Williams has actually got quite a few entries in my ranking because I think Rupert is a brilliant composer. And he's back to expand on his original Aquaman score. And actually, it's a really, really brilliant emotional score. A score for a movie should be the extension of the atmosphere and environment a director wants you to have of that movie. A great director and a great composer should work together to create that. One of the best scores of all time is John Williams' Star Wars A New Hope. Without Williams' score for A New Hope, that movie isn't half the movie it ends up being. And it's very operatic. It's not a musical, obviously, but there's a lot of music in A New Hope. And music is very important. And, Rupert Gregson-Williams in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, as I say, expands on his original themes. I really adore the original Aquaman soundtrack as well. But this is a brilliant score, so I thought I'd put it on the bottom of my ranking. Coming next is Benjamin Wallfish's Shazam soundtrack for the first Shazam movie. I think again that Benjamin is a very proficient composer. He isn't one of my favourites, and I'm going to tell you now that his Flash score isn't in my ranking. I can barely remember the music for that movie. But I think again, the score for Shazam really does give you that kind of lighter, kind of family environment. But when it comes to the horror element of this movie, Benjamin does a really good job of making things a bit uneasy and a bit uncertain. And I really loved that element of his score. So yeah, I really enjoyed Benjamin's score for the first Shazam movie. Then we've got Wonder Woman 84. Now that movie, surprisingly, is scored by one Mr. Hans Zimmer, one of the best composers in the world right now. Again, Wonder Woman 84 isn't particularly a good DC movie, in my opinion. You may love it, I don't. But this is not about the film. This is about the score. And Hans' score for Wonder Woman 84 is absolutely fantastic. It's got some wonderful emotional beats. It's got some brilliant action music as well. And it really does create a good environment for the movie. Basically the score enhances the movie. A great score should always enhance the movie. But this movie really did need enhancing, and Hans Zimmer's score really does that. What's interesting about Wonder Woman 84 is that, Patty Jenkins got rid of everything that Snyder brought on, apart from Hans Zimmer for the DCEU. And bringing in Hans is interesting because, again, Rupert Gregson-Williams did an outstanding job at composing the first Wonder Woman movie's soundtrack. It's one of the best scores in any comic book movie I've ever heard. And if you don't like it, it's tough. That's my opinion. And even though Hans' score is amazing, I think it kind of disappoints me that Rupert Gregson-Williams wasn't invited back to do the score of the sequel. I think it's important to use the same composers in each movie when you're dealing with not a franchise, but a movie about the same character, because you create an identity through that score in the first Wonder Woman movie. It would have been nice to continue that kind of environment and personality. But that's the problem with Patty Jenkins. She was trying to move as far away as possible from the first Wonder Woman movie. But I really do like what Hans did with the score of Wonder Woman 84. It's an outstanding score. My next one may be a surprise to you. Black Adam. Wow. By Lorne Balfe. This is one of my favourite composers in Hollywood right now. And I will say this, it's only because the other scores from the other DCEU movies are so good that the Black Adam soundtrack isn't higher up my ranking. Again, for me, this is one of the best scores in comic book movie history. I know that's a shocking thing to say for a movie a lot of people didn't like, and that was a flop. It's a movie, actually, I love as equally as I do the score. I personally love Black Adam. But Lorne's score, again, upscales the stakes of the movie. It's so good. I listen to this score every fucking day while I'm taking a shower, having a shave, and the rest of it. You don't need to know my pruning habits, do you? But yeah, I love this score. I think it's amazing. It's the emotional beats and the action. But when you think about one of the greatest superhero themes for a superhero ever, John Williams, hero score for Superman, this guy gives Black Adam an epic theme. It really is an amazing theme. It suits Black Adam down to a T. As I say, I really like this soundtrack, and I'd love to know in the comments down below what you think of Lorne Balfe's Black Adam soundtrack, because I really adore it. I think it's fantastic. It sets such a good environment and atmosphere for the movie. As I say, a good score should really create the environment and atmosphere for a movie the director wants to extend via the music. So yeah, Black Adam, wow, what a score. It's amazing, and Lorne Balfe does such a good job. Brilliant score, absolutely adore it. It's one of my favourites in the comic book movie genre. Next, we have Rupert Gregson-Williams, who dominates my ranking in the first Aquaman, and I mentioned this earlier. So that's both Aquaman movie scores in my ranking. It's not about the movie, it's about the score, remember, but I love Aquaman, no question about it. It's one of my favourite CBMs. Does a brilliant job. But the Aquaman score is absolutely beautiful. It's soulful. It's emotional. I think that Rupert is one of the best composers for upscaling those emotional beats, those personalities of the characters or heroes he's composing music for. And he does it again in the first Aquaman movie. His action set piece music is brilliant as well, but it's the theme for Aquaman. He gets, again, just like Black Adam, like what Lorne Balfe did with Black Adam, Rupert Gregson-Williams gives Aquaman a great theme, and it really, really does work. So it's a brilliant score, and it really just upscales what this movie is, and it, again, it works. And I'm really glad, actually, that they brought Rupert back for the Aquaman sequel, because I think that's right, as I said earlier. Big mistake from Patty Jenkins not to bring back Rupert Gregson-Williams for Wonder Woman 84. In fact, I'll go as far as to say it was very toxic to try and move as far away as possible from the first Wonder Woman movie. But there you go. That's Patty Jenkins all over. The best things from the first Wonder Woman had nothing to do with her anyway. So Rupert Gregson-Williams' score for Aquaman is outstanding. But next, it's Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, that isn't in my top 3. And some people are going to be upset about that and some people won't be. Again, it's not about the movie. I adore this movie. It's about the score. Hans Zimmer returns after Man of Steel to score the Man of Steel sequel, which is what Batman vs Superman is. And really, and I think this is the first time that actually Hans brought on Junkie XL to help him with this score. They both worked on the score for Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice. It's a really good score that suits the movie. This, if you've got the Ultimate Edition, is a 3-hour movie. And the score, it really does suit the movie. The score's very quiet sometimes, and it gets really loud. And that's what I love about this score. But then it's got some of the emotional music from Man of Steel as well. It's not scared to use some of the music beats and riffs from Man of Steel either. And I think that's why, as I said earlier, why it's so important to use the same composer for the same character when you're building on a franchise. Once you start changing the composer on a sequel, I think it's a problem because they want to do their own thing, understandably. But I think, Zimmer does an excellent job here with Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice. As I say, Hans Zimmer is one of the greats. He, of course, worked alongside another composer for Batman Begins. He came back with The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Zimmer is one of the greats. He's done animated movies as well. He's done so many different movies. The man is amazing. And his and Junkie XL's, score for Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice is iconic and legendary as much as the movie is as well. It fits the environment of what Zack Snyder was trying to create. There's that marching band element of the score as well that I really like, because Zack Snyder is a bit of a sledgehammer of movie directors. He wants you to feel the atmosphere, the gladiatory element of his superhero movies as well. And sometimes you feel that sledgehammer via Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer's Batman vs Superman score as well. And then in the end, you get the emotional music when Bruce Wayne tells us men are still good. That's a brilliant theme. And, at the end, it's all very emotional and quiet after they finish fighting Doomsday. Again, Junkie and Hans gets that absolutely right. So it's a brilliant score. So, third top is Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Imagine having to score a 4-hour movie. Imagine how difficult that must have been. A huge challenge. Now, Junkie XL is a bit of a maniac. He already had a score for a 2.5 movie Snyder version of Justice League. He already had another score, but he decided not to use that and start again. That's insane. He could have used that and then basically just added more music to the Snyder Cut. But he didn't want to do that. He didn't feel it was right. And that kind of gave him memories of the other cut. And he came out and he started again. He did a 4-hour score for Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. No, let me say that again. He did a 4-hour score for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Let's get the movies right, hey Mick. Let's not confuse people. But yeah, so this guy composes a score for a 4-hour movie. And what an exceptional job he did with it. It really is an outstanding score from beginning, middle, and ending. And there's a lot of music in this movie. I don't know if there's a quiet moment in the movie. I have to go over the movie again and see if there's a moment without any music. But there's a lot of music in the Snyder Cut. And yes, Junkie XL, who learnt his craft from the great Hans Zimmer, really pulls it off. It's a brilliant score that stays faithful to the temper and tone of Man of Steel and BVS. Again, when you're using the same types of people for these characters, for these franchises, it works. Because as I said earlier, a composer formulates an identity, an environment, and an aroma, if you like, of a movie. And this is why you don't want to keep on using different people. So Junkie XL came in to compose BVS with Hans Zimmer. So it's great that he got the promotion to do Justice League on his own. And oh boy, did he nail that movie. I mean it. His music was fucking outstanding. And it's only because of my love for the other two movies in the top two that he's only at number 3. This is nothing on Junkie. I love Junkie XL. I think he's one of the great composers. I think that Junkie is one of the best composers out there right now. But yeah, the Snyder Cut is a great achievement. This guy, if this movie was released in cinemas, should have been nominated for an Oscar for his soundtrack. Because to compose nearly 4 hours of fucking music is amazing. It's a daunting task in itself. And a lot of composers may have kind of been a bit lazy here. But this guy, you can see the motivation in his music, using the themes and some of the other music from MOS and BVS as well, using those tones and those emotional beats. And it's there. It's all there. It's brilliant. It really works. And, he nailed it. He nailed the music for this movie. I'm a big fan of scores. I'm not interested in, radio music. And, everyone fell in love with James Gunn's mixtapes with his Guardians movies, but I'm not a mixtape man. I like songs, I love Phil Collins, I love Sting, I love Rick Astley. Don't tell anyone I like Rick Astley, but I like my music. Don't get me wrong. But in films, I like, a symphonic score. I want to hear proper music because the music is another character in the film. And that's what Junkie XL does with Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. He enhances that film. It's like Star Wars: A New Hope. You take that movie away, you take that music away from the Snyder Cut, it isn't the same movie. Doesn't mean that Zack Snyder didn't make a great movie. It means that music enhances how you feel about a moment of a movie. Because there's this snobbery about music, a bit like there is about canned laughter and a live studio audience in a sitcom. It kind of, some people think it's insulting because it tells you how to feel, when to laugh, when not to laugh. But at the end of the day, it enhances. When we're talking about a live studio audience, hearing the laughter in a gagging Friends or another sitcom, whatever sitcom you like, it enhances that funny moment. And so does a score in a movie. And David Ayer has spoken about the Ayer cut, how there's a proper score in that movie. I think even if we can't see the movie, why not release that score? Because I bet it's fucking fantastic. Would it be in my ranking? I guess we'll never know. So third to top is Junkie XL's score for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. So there's 2 soundtracks to go. Who is at number 2? It's Hans Zimmer's score for Man of Steel. Man of Steel is one of my favourite comic book movies. There's no question about that. Maybe we can go back and start reviewing my favourite DCEU movies when it's a slow news day, as it is today. Let's be honest about it. Hans Zimmer is the fucking master. And just like BVS, like Wonder Woman 84 and everything he's ever fucking done ever, he nails this movie. This is a score you wouldn't expect to have on a Superman movie. But Man of Steel is a Superman movie you wouldn't expect to be a Superman movie. So it's snap, it works, it's perfect. Not only do you get a slow theme, but for example, you get this very interesting, unique theme for Superman in Man of Steel. No, 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 I can't even do it, but you know what I mean. And it starts off slow, and it gets faster, and faster, and faster. And this echoes the movie. Man of Steel starts off with a childbirth very slowly. Then we get into the insurrection by Zod, and it gets more action-packed and action-packed and action-packed. That's what Hans does with the Man of Steel score. And it's absolutely perfect. It's got brilliant themes for its characters. It got brilliant action set-piece music. It really is as brilliant and as iconic as this movie. Imagine how difficult it is for anyone to compose a score for a Superman movie since John Williams' Superman the movie score. Because that score, like Star Wars: A New Hope, really uplifts that movie. It's one of the most famous, iconic scores of all time. So to come in and actually do a score for a Superman movie is really difficult. But then I really love the score for Superman Returns. I think the Superman Returns score is probably better than the actual movie. And I enjoy a lot of elements of Superman Returns. I don't hate Superman Returns, but I understand why it wasn't successful and some of the problems within that movie. So that's a great score. We've been very, very lucky and fortunate with composers of Superman movies. And here with Man of Steel, and, you know, as I say, we were very fortunate to get Hans Zimmer. Obviously, Nolan being involved in Man of Steel and co-writing the story. You know, Nolan and Goya did the Dark Knight trilogy. We had the people who did the Dark Knight trilogy writing a Superman movie. How exciting was that at the time? It was. And for me, they didn't disappoint me. But the music, the environment of the music, the atmosphere of this Superman movie and its music and its marching and the marching band element of it and the theme that builds and builds and builds up until it becomes very, very action-packed, and the emotional beats of the music, especially for Superman, and the Krypton theme, and the Smallville battle. This is a perfect score for a perfect movie. Of course, look, I've always said there's no such thing as a perfect piece of art. You know, when you're a human being and you're creating art, you're going to have flaws within your art. But a movie can be perfect to an individual person. And for me, it is a perfect movie. I go and watch it and I enjoy it. And the score is absolutely perfect. Hans Zimmer encapsulates what Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan, and David Goya wanted for this movie. So it is a very, you know, in a way, if you listen to this soundtrack before you watch Man of Steel, which I did, by the way, I thought, right, I do like this score, but it doesn't sound very Superman-y. But when you actually watch the movie with the music, you realise it's perfect for this Superman movie. So Hans Zimmer's score for Man of Steel is amazing. And we still don't know, by the way, who's composing the score for Superman Legacy. I've still got a theory that it's John Williams. I'm losing my voice. I need music to make up for me lacking a voice. Anyway, so at number 2, it's Hans Zimmer and Man of Steel. But last but by no means least, it's Rupert Gregson-Williams' theme for the first Wonder Woman movie, allegedly directed by Patty Jenkins. We've already had that conversation, and starring Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. This is my favourite score from a DCEU movie. And if you look at the list, you know, that I brought to you today, It's very, very difficult. There's an argument to say that Zimmer's Man of Steel score is better than this. And I'm not going to say that outright this score is better than what Hans did, or better than anything else on my list. But to me, it's the perfect score, again, for a perfect movie. Despite the complaints that Wonder Woman 2017's third act is bad, I've never agreed with that. I always feel very emotional and cry in that third act when Wonder Woman is embracing the dark side over her anger of Steve Trevor's death. I don't think that's a bad third act. That's just my opinion. But Rupert Gregson-Williams encapsulates what you need to do. This is a female hero, but just because it's a female hero, it doesn't mean you have to go soft and soppy. Wonder Woman is one of the most powerful characters in fiction. And it's very, very interesting because it's Hans Zimmer who created Wonder Woman's theme in BVS alongside Junkie XL. And Rupert Gregson-Williams, the best composers are the ones who don't have the arrogance to ignore what other people have already done. So Rupert Gregson-Williams actually takes that theme and really uses it in Wonder Woman 2017 to devastating, beautiful, powerful effect. And it really, really does work. As you already know from this ranking already, I've got a lot of time for Rupert Gregson-Williams as a composer. Whether it's this film, whether it's the first Aquaman or the second Aquaman, his music. I think it's the emotional elements of Rupert's music that really gets to me, really enhances my experience emotionally of a movie, and he nails it here. It's the soft emotional beats of his riffs and his music that really work for me in this movie. And what can I say? It's my favourite DCEU soundtrack. My favourite DCEU score. It works on every level. From the very beginning, the movie opens. The music is there with, young Diana played by the multi-talented Lily Aspel. I've said it before. I love Lily. I spoke to her parents during the original release of that movie. I spoke to her family and I said, this kid has really done you proud. You must be great parents. I had long conversations with them. I think she's fucking amazing. I told them if I was running Doctor Who and I was the Doctor, she would be my companion. She's so talented. In fact, she's old enough now to play probably a teenage Diana. That's something that maybe James Gunn could be looking at. He probably isn't. I'd certainly think of casting her as a young Wonder Woman. But anyway, that's me. But yeah, that opening moment of the movie, and it's the atmosphere, it's that emotion. He gets me clicked in. His music, when that movie opens, clicks me in that this is going to be a very, very heartfelt movie, and in places a very tragic movie. In a way, Diana's story is very tragic. She doesn't know that she is the weapon that has to be Ares, right? She thinks it's the sword. No one's been honest with Diana. This is the only child on the island. And I think, again, Rupert Gregson-Williams encapsulates that environment and atmosphere. I can't underestimate this, I can't underestimate this to you, how important a score and a composer is to a movie. It's one of the most important elements. Now, there's a lot of important elements to a movie or a TV show or a drama, obviously there's the writing, there's the directing, there's the whole crew, there's the actors, of course, but music is very important. Music is that atmosphere. Music creates that atmosphere. Murray Gold's music on Doctor Who is iconic. What it is in the original run of the Russell T Davies era anyway. Although I loved his music so far in RTD2, it hasn't stuck in my mind as much as the original stuff has. We'll see how we get along with that in the new series. But anyway, back to Wonder Woman and Rupert Gregson-Williams. Yeah, great composer. And it's kind of sad that they didn't use him more times because he's so good. He really is. And I was gutted that he wasn't composing the Flash movie score. That's when I started getting an inkling that maybe we had a problem with this movie. And the mentality of bringing in Benjamin Wallfisch told me everything. It told me that we were going to that Shazam tone, that family-friendly tone, that bright colours and bad gags tone. And that's exactly what the Flash movie ended up being. I don't have an issue with Benjamin Wallfisch. I've put him in my ranking. The first Shazam soundtrack score is brilliant. I enjoyed it. But I just think that Rupert Gregson-Williams is a better composer than Benjamin Wallfisch. Anyway, what do you think of my DCEU favourite soundtracks ranking? Let me know in the comments down below. This has been the DC Universe Daily here on Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad, Instagram and Threads Movies TV Mad X. Until I see you next time, have a lovely day.